Hi, everybody. Are we live? Can you hear me? Can you drop in the chat if you can hear me? We've had a few technical difficulties. So if for any reason I drop off, Darby is also here. She's going to put a recording and I will be in the chat. So let me know if you're here. I'm going to get started. I'm going to talk to myself if no one says anything. So today, we are going to talk about running your cost of doing business, and we got to make sure that we are profitable in 2026. Okay, good. You guys are here and you can hear me. Amazing. Let's get to some housekeeping things. Please turn off your Netflix or anything running in the background. The streaming services can kind of cause some disruptions. I've turned all my stuff off, but I'm still having issues. So if for whatever reason you get kicked off, you will get a recording of this in your email about an hour after it's finished. So you will get a recording. No worries there. Introduce yourself in the chat. Let me know where you're from and what kind of photography you do. You will get a survey at the end of this webinar. Please fill it out. Let us know how we're doing and what other things you want to learn about, because we're always reading that stuff and want to bring you some new topics. So let's get started. Who am I? I'm Kelly. I'm the content manager here at Shootproof, but I'm also an equine photographer in Abu Dhabi. I used to live in California and I moved around a lot, but we have settled here, and I love a good budgeting spreadsheet. So I am your girl when it comes to budgeting, mainly because I have a horse. And in order to support him, I have to make sure that I do not overspend. So yeah, I also happen to work at Shootproof, and I have made every single pricing mistake since 2013. I promise you, I have done every dumb thing in the book, overspent on gear. We're going to talk about all of it. Do not feel bad. It's 2026. We're starting anew. Obviously, my husband took this photo. That proves that I'm a photographer because I have no good photos of myself. So shout out to Peter for the awful photo. Okay, so let's go over the agenda. I'm going to try to keep it to about 40 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. So we're going to go over why knowing our cost of doing business is crucial, the main categories of expenses, and some tax considerations. Now, this is primarily focused for those of you in the United States, but a majority of this information is also good for anyone in the world. You just have to consider your own tax implications wherever you are located. So we're going to talk about how to calculate your cost of doing business and your hourly rate, along with how to mark up products and what you can do to potentially increase your income and the type of pricing strategies. So this is a real high-level overview. I am not an accountant or a CPA, but I've been doing this for a really long time. And again, I've made all the mistakes. So I know what I'm doing now. All right, so first question. Have you done this? So you get a call from a friend or a friend of a friend who you've talked to at a party once, and they ask you to do their engagement photos because they've heard you're amazing, and you don't know how to do engagement photos, or maybe you've never priced for engagement photos, and you panic and you say, oh, but for you, it's free. Or you throw out a number that's just absolutely ridiculous, $300 or something. And you panic because you're a people pleaser and you want everyone to love you. I have done this. This is just one of the many pricing things to get you in trouble. So we don't want to do this. This is why we need to know our numbers, because we do not know, if we don't know our numbers, we're not putting on pants or leaving our couch. Right? Okay, so that is the energy we are taking in to 2026. Okay, so I think this is obvious, but why do we need to know our costs? Number one, so we don't get discouraged and we don't go broke. I think when you're first starting out in your photography, you're kind of taking all the things, you're not really sure what you're doing, you're not tracking your expenses, and then you buy that lens that you probably didn't need. And by the end of the year, you're like, I have no idea how much money went out, and I don't really know how much money came in. So we're going to settle all of that today. And two, so you can build a sustainable business. We want to keep the motivation going. We want to make some money. We want to support our families and be able to buy the extra gear without the guilt. So let's talk about the main photography expenses that you're going to encounter in your business. Now, obviously, this is kind of nuanced for everyone. There's going to be little things, but these are the general categories that you can kind of fit your expenses into. So obviously, equipment. This can get out of hand, so be careful. Any software, subscriptions, outsourcing, like editing, for example. Marketing and client appreciation. Client appreciation is like sending out maybe a print or a magnet that you've made of a photo of their session. So those are the kind of things that you want to work in to your expenses as well. Any continuing education. We know that this can get real expensive out there when you're cruising Instagram and you're like, "Ooh, I just need this course," but it's $800 and maybe it's really great, but that is a part of our expenses that we need to keep track of. Any studio or office expenses, travel expenses back and forth to sessions like gas money. Travel expenses could also be like, hey, you got to get a babysitter. And that's going to cost you, however much an hour. So we got to keep that in mind as well. Lab expenses, packing and shipping any products. Those can kind of add up really quickly, $10 here and there. So keeping track of those is essential. Any legal setup, photography, liability insurance, and accounting costs to run your business. So this is going to be different for everyone, obviously. We definitely recommend getting insurance. I think it ranges about $300 to $500 a year or so. You'd have to look into that, but that's important. And the most important is if you need to get your own personal health insurance and plan for retirement. I think we all sort of put that off, but it's time to start thinking about that as well. So how do we actually determine your cost of doing business? First, there in the handout section, if you look at the top to the right-hand side, there is a handout section with a little red dot. And if you click on that, you can access this cost of doing business calculator from Cassie Clayschultz. Join her Facebook group. It's really great. They talk about pricing a lot in there, and they will kick your butt into charging more, which I love. So take a look at that. But we're going to kind of talk about an overview. This is obviously going to be different for everyone, but you can plug in your numbers and kind of play with it to see how much you need to charge. So let's start with the number stuff. And obviously this is going to range a lot, but I'm kind of taking general numbers here. So your sales minus your expenses equals your profit. So I'm just kind of pulling a number out of thin air here, but 70,000 in sales minus your expenses. Now, expenses can range obviously from 2,000 a year to 12,000 a year, 18,000. I mean, depending on how many lenses you buy, those things are going to be write-offs, hopefully. So all of your expenses you can subtract from those sales. And so your profit in this case, for this example, is going to be $65,000. That's what you take home, right? Before you pay your taxes. So we generally recommend, and again, talk to a professional, but 30% putting aside is going to kind of get you where you need to be, and not undervalue what you owe. You don't want a big tax bill at the end of the year. So this is something to really kind of look into. We're going to go into it a little bit more. But yeah, professional help is always really great. So from the 65,000 in profit, the 30% taxes is actually 19,500, which when you see it like that, it's a lot, right? So in this case, your take home, like what you actually get into your bank account, is 45,500. So again, you're starting with 70,000 in sales and you're ending with 45,500. So this is kind of the general formula that you want to keep, and kind of play with the numbers and figure out how much you want to make in sales, and then do the calculations and make sure that that's enough for your take-home pay. So an example of this, how this would break down, you want to make 70,000 in sales. that would be 116 portrait sessions or mini sessions. And the average session income would be $600. So obviously, if you would like to do less sessions, that average session is going to cost your clients more. So this is where you kind of have to play to see how much you're available to work and how much you want to make per your average session. So the same number, 70,000, if you did maybe 20 weddings a year, that would come out to you needing to make 3,500 per wedding, which I think is pretty cheap these days. So again, you kind of have to figure out these numbers and make sure that they work for you. And this is where we kind of get a general overview of like, okay, what do I actually need to make in order to take this much home? And it is a reality check. I don't know about you guys, but when I actually sat down and like did all of this, I was like, wow, this is not what I had expected. So don't panic. We're going to talk about ways to make more money if you're feeling like there are so many ways to increase your profit without doing a heck of a lot more work. So let's get into taxes just a little bit. So in the US, and this is going to be different for the international crowd. There are 3 types of taxes that you have to pay as like a solopreneur, right? So we're just breaking it down into the 3 main taxes that you're going to have to pay, which is federal income tax, state income tax, which I know some states don't have it, so move there, and then your self-employment tax. Now, this is going to cover Medicare, Social Security, and I probably should have made that a little bit bigger at the bottom, but self-employment tax is actually 15.3%. So again, just kind of knowing these numbers and what you're going to have to pay and talk to your accountant about, it at least gives you that reality of what you're going to have to put aside. So keep this in mind. These are the federal tax brackets for 2026. And just to kind of give you an overview really quickly of how it works, I'm just going to use the single filers here. But your first $12,400 in income is taxed at 10%. So that would be $1,240. And then the $65,000 that you're taking home minus that $12,400 is going to give you a remaining $52,600. And then if you look at the tax brackets there, you'll see that $52,600 actually puts you in the 22% tax bracket. So that remaining chunk of money is going to be taxed at 22%. So the total for this case of $65,000 take-home pay is going to be $12,812 in federal taxes. Obviously, this is going to maybe vary a little bit, but this will give you a general idea of what you're going to pay. This is something that you really, really, really want to pay attention to. So I'm not sure how it works in every country, but there probably are some write-offs no matter where you are. So all of your expenses that you have for your business, like new gear, or say you're taking a client to lunch to talk about their wedding, or you buy something for your home office, all of your expenses need to fall into these categories. So this is the IRS form 1040, and it's called the Schedule C. So when you fill out your taxes, this is like a part of one of the little sections that you have to fill out. And this is where it's so important to keep all of your detailed records and all of your receipts. And sometimes you can kind of make things work. Maybe it's an expense, maybe not, but ask your accountant. And sometimes they have magic ways of turning it into a deduction. So yeah, you want to make sure that all of your expenses can fall into these categories here. And just to give you a hot tip, bookkeeping is really important. So it's really key to all of this. It helps keep you organized. It helps keep you informed about what's going in and out. It gives you a lot of cash flow insight. You're like, where the heck did that money go? And then you see that you bought the latest tripod that you saw on Instagram. It makes you aware of your possible deductions. It's just kind of keeping it at the top of your mind. And it also keeps you from crapping in your pants when tax season comes and you're like, oh my God, I didn't do anything. We don't want to be there. It's so stressful. Don't do it. Okay, so let's break it down a little bit further into determining your hourly rate. So one thing that I don't think we take the time because we're busy is to really sit down and figure out what a typical session costs us in the amount of time. So in the handouts, you can download this. But I really, really suggest sitting down and figuring out for your typical portrait session, let's just call it a portrait session, whatever you're doing, or a mini session, what is your typical session, and see how long a 1 hour session actually takes you. So you are going to be driving to and from, that's after you're communicating, right? So you're going back and forth on email, you're kind of getting everything ready. You can be more involved or less involved, and this is where it's going to vary with everyone. But you really need to be tracking how much time you're spending outside of the actual hour that you're spending with your clients, right? Are you on the phone for them? Are you buying props? Are you like, what is the legwork that you're putting in? And then of course, after the session, how long does it take you to like cull your images, and how long does it take you to edit your images on average? You have to upload to the gallery, and you're sending an email and making sure that all the links are working. So this is all to say, don't undervalue your time spent for 1 hour of actual in-person photography. So let's do another example really quick. Let's say that it's not enough. You want to bump that 70 up to 90,000 per year. That would require you to do 90 sessions, or 2 sessions a week for 45 weeks. But that means that each session is going to have to bring in $1,000, right? And maybe, you know, for that one session, for that $1,000, you're spending 4 hours of your time to kind of create the whole experience. Now, maybe that's 6 hours, maybe it's less, maybe it's only 2 hours. So this is going to determine how that breaks down to your hourly rate. And maybe you see your hourly rate and you're like, that's not high enough. So go ahead and bump that up. This is just kind of a more objective way to kind of see how much time you're actually spending and break down how much you need to make per hour to get to your goal of $1,000 or $600, whatever it is. So this is really helpful for when people approach you about custom sessions. And I'm not talking about fancy custom sessions. I'm talking about somebody has a corporate event for their job that they're like, hey, we need a photographer. How much do you charge? Or if your neighbor's like, hey, my kid's birthday party is next weekend. Do you want to take their photos? And the answer to that is it's going to be $1 million because it's a lot of work and a lot of screaming. Okay, no. So what you can do is ask that person how much time they will need for actual, shooting time. So if they say our corporate event is, say, 3 hours, you can kind of calculate in your head, okay, 3 hours in person, right? But it's also going to cost me 3 hours of my time because it's an hour away, right? And I have to drive, and I'm doing a lot of extra editing, whatever it is. So you've determined that that's going to be an additional 3 hours of your time. So in this case, if you're charging $250 an hour, you can say it's $1,500. Now, again, this is just quick math, so you don't get caught off guard because you don't always have the opportunity to go home, sit down, create a custom quote for someone. Somebody's going to ask you when you're at school pickup, right? And you are going to be flustered. And instead of saying, oh, I do it for free, you say, yeah, how many hours? And you do a quick calculation and you've determined it's 1,500. 1,500 for a corporate event is not out of the ordinary. In fact, it's maybe kind of low. So if you come up by that number and you're like, no, I'm not doing it for that, go ahead and bump it up. Or if you feel like, okay, this person has helped me out and they're a friend, you can lower it. This is just to give you a gauge of what your time is worth. And like I said before, unless you're making that or more, maybe it's not worth getting off your couch, right? You don't want to spend 8 hours taking pictures for a friend and maybe making, an hour or $100, sorry. So again, just so you have kind of a number in your head to make it a bit more accurate. Okay, so how do we determine how to mark up our products? This is something we are asked all the time. This is a good opportunity to go into your ShootProof account, look up your price sheets. The really great part is you can see the amount of markup. And let's talk about this before you go to your price sheet because it might change your mind. So say you want to sell an album to your wedding clients. I think 600 is actually quite cheap, but say you're charging them 600 for a 20 by 20 album, and the album is actually going to cost you $200. So on top of that $200, maybe there is some packaging and mailing. Maybe you make it cute before you send it off. Say that's $50. And then you've figured out that you're going to spend 60 minutes editing, like extra editing, maybe some tweaking, composing the album, right? You have to put the album together, which we all know can be a big pain in the butt. Then maybe you want to have it shipped to you first so you can check it, then packaging, mailing. Okay, all of this is going to take an hour of your time. So you're charging your client $600. The album is costing you $200, and then an additional $50 for packaging. So in your mind, it's $350 in profit, right? But when you also calculate in your time, which is $250, you're like absolute awesome profit that you didn't really have to do much for is only $100. So you have to kind of keep all of these expenses in mind. And let's not forget that there might be an error in the printing process. And now this does not happen a lot. And if it's the lab's error, they will usually fix it. I mean, I've never heard of them not fixing it for free. The problem is if you mess something up, then you are going to have to pay for a new album. So in this case, it might be better to charge more. One of these days, it might happen. It happened to me. I printed a beautiful album and there was one blurry image, and that was my fault because I didn't check, and I could not give her that album. So I had to reprint it, and it cost me an extra $200. So make sure you're at least covering for that as well. All right, so how are we going to charge more? If you are listening to this and you're absolutely panicked because you feel like you're not making enough money, let's talk about how we can increase our revenue. So we've noticed that some small changes can make pretty big, impactful results. And one thing is learning video. Now, this is something that can be quite intimidating, but don't worry, there's YouTube. There's lots of great free information, and some of our cameras can actually switch back and forth between video quite easily. So first, check with your camera, see if it's possible, check out a couple of YouTube videos, and start just filming stuff when you're out and about. Something I'm sure all of you have probably noticed, video is a thing. A lot of clients want some extra video during their session because they want to put it on Instagram, and you can charge for that. whether it's like a small add-on or it's a completely different, like higher priced add-on, it's definitely something to consider. I would definitely recommend putting in the time to learn video well and the editing programs well. You don't want to be delivering, not the greatest video. You want to put in the effort, but it could yield a lot in increased revenue. So you can also sell a mobile app. We've heard of a lot of people using the mobile apps at Shoeproof to just kind of like, hey, for an extra $100, you can have a mobile app that you can just have right on your home screen and you can share with friends. And people are actually making sales doing that. So it's a little thing that you can do. That's nice. Sell your gear that you're not using. I know that you have a lens somewhere that someone else would love to buy. So make sure that you are not letting things collect dust, because the longer they sit in your bag, the less they're worth because they're older. So just kind of go through your stuff, clean it out, and vow to yourself to pause or to borrow something before you go out and buy something you don't need potentially. Start selling prints and products. And I know I didn't love it at first either. It's not something that I push in my business particularly, but I will mention casually that I can create like a really nice piece of wall art. And I have done this before. They turn out beautifully. And the markup for these products are quite high, right? So you're doing all the legwork. They don't want to deal with printing a huge print to go above their couch most of the time. Some people are into that, but a lot of people just want to pay someone else, the professional, to do that. So it's really cool. And it's really cool to see your work that big. It's a little bit scary, but I promise if you do it once, you'll kind of get addicted to seeing it big and your clients will love it. So it's definitely worth considering. Even if it feels a little bit weird, maybe print out one of your family photos just to kind of do a test print, see if you want it framed or if a canvas is better. Just kind of mess around with your own photos first. But then you can use those as examples. You can throw them in the back of your car when you're going to a session and be like one of those guys with the Rolexes in their jackets or whatever. Like, I have a canvas here. I have, some prints. Look at these. When clients can see things like tangibly, I think they're a lot more likely to be like, wow, that's really cool. Obviously, you're not going to put like a huge thing in your trunk with a big frame, but a canvas might be easy to transport. Wall art and storybooks are really, really cool. So another thing that we can do is upsell extra images. And this literally does not take you more than 5 minutes to do. You just kind of have to change your pricing model a little bit. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So let's talk about some ways you can stand out from your competitors and make some like little changes top of mind to maybe make the experience a bit better. So finding a niche in your area that doesn't exist. So for example, I do equine photography. I used to do competitions, stuff like that. I still do them occasionally, but then there was a lot of photographers in my area coming in and they were charging like nothing to take photos, and the photos were amazing. So I kind of realized like maybe this is not something I want to, specialize in. And I started doing more high-end portraits, the black background type thing, where the horse is kind of like more stylized. It's more high end, right? So I'm the only person kind of doing that in my area. I still do the oddball stuff as well, but people come to me because they know I can do that. And if that's what they want, I'm their person. So if you find something, you can still do all sorts of photography. Like if you want to do a newborn session and a family session and whatever, that's fine. You don't necessarily have to advertise that on your website if you want to niche down a little bit more into one specific area. I know a ton of wedding photographers who are super high end. They're charging a ton of money for their weddings. They are known for weddings, but they also do family sessions and maternity sessions and stuff like that. So when people are talking about like niche down, it doesn't mean that you can't do other things. And I want to let everyone know, like, we're all trying to make money, right? I'm not going to say no if somebody's willing to pay me for something, just because like I'm not, that's not my specialty. I'm going to take their photos, right? So you can offer perks for your clients. The only one I could really think of was like this client closet. If you're doing maybe maternity or like boudoir, but it's going to cost you some money. So maybe that one's not the greatest, but it's something that makes you stand out. So finding a private location or exclusive location is really cool. And maybe you know an area that is a little off the beaten track where you are, that not many photographers know, and you can talk about having an exclusive location that's really beautiful. Hopefully no one can figure out where you are, but that's always something fun to offer clients. They get excited about things that are exclusive. So again, offering a full service like art option where you design something or whatever they need, you can do that for them. Talking about your experience on a blog or social media is really great. So people are a part of your experience, right? They're walking through that experience with you. They're kind of seeing your reels daily or maybe reading the blog. If you're not big on social, don't feel bad. You can skip this one. I know it's a little bit stressful to be on social these days. So do what works for you, but including your potential clients in your experience is going to get them excited about working with you and getting to know you. I think, as we all know, like personal brands are really big right now because people trust other people. And if they can get to know you through your social media, that's really cool. And if they connect with you, you're already standing out. So think outside the box for any mini sessions. If you absolutely dread mini sessions, skip this one too. But if you're into mini sessions, there's so many different things that you can do, holiday themes or, themes throughout the year. We have a photographer, Deanna Decker. I don't know, Darby, if you have the link for Deanna's webinar. She is making, I don't know, like 200,000 just on mini sessions. So it can be done. She has a very, very strict system, but hopefully we can drop that link. And that is definitely one to watch if you're into mini sessions. I am not. It is far too stressful for me to do mini sessions. So if you're in that camp, don't worry. Again, bring sample art to your sessions. And then the last one, figure out what your competitors are doing and not doing. Audrey, her name was Deanna Decker. I don't know. I can maybe, okay. Darby's going to get that link. So studying your competitors does not mean going down the rabbit hole of looking at all of their beautiful photos and feeling like trash about yourself. Okay. We're not doing that. We're just going to try to figure out what they're not doing and potentially figure out a way that you can be different and unique and more fun. But don't stress yourself and do not talk badly to yourself about how you're not as good, because a lot of people are on social media and pretending that they're busier than they are. So maybe that's true, maybe not, but don't get down on yourself if you look at your competitors. And actually, a hot tip as well, become friends with photographers in your area. It has been the biggest gift to me and my business. And I had to borrow some gear once, like reach out to other photographers and join forces. I have joined forces with a photographer in my area, and it has only been a good thing for my business. We're really good friends now. We can vent to each other on message, if something happens. So that's just a side thing that it's always helpful to have a friend to help you. Okay, so we're going to talk about pricing models really quickly. You probably have yours kind of set. This is going to just give you different options. If you feel like maybe you're not making enough money, not charging enough, just to open your mind, maybe there's a different way. So we're going to talk about 4 different models here. And the all-inclusive one is my favorite because it takes the least amount of time. So this is, they pay you a fee and you take their photos, you send their photos, however many you've decided to give them, and it's done, dusted, over with. This is a very low touch point kind of business model. I think it works for a lot of people. The only issue is it's kind of a one and done deal. So you have to charge what you need to charge upfront, right? So you can't make 1,000 on a session if this is your business model and you're only charging 300, right? You're capping yourself at 300. Or in this case, I put $899, which is, it's a little bit high, right? But there are definitely photographers charging a lot more than this. So yeah, if you do decide to go with the all-inclusive model, it's really good to kind of price yourself a little bit higher, just so you don't have a big gap to make up, you know. And if you are charging 200, right, and you're like, oh gosh, I'm there, it's okay. We're going to talk about that too. But this one, just make sure you're charging enough. So this, I love this model here is some digitals, then you can upsell more digitals, and then you can sell prints and products. It's going to take you more time a little bit, especially with the prints and products, but this is where you can make more money, right? So for example, in this example, you have maybe some different packages that you're offering, and say your middle package is $400 and it includes 10 digital images. I know you all are not just taking 10 photos. We are taking 1,000 photos because we are overshooters and we have more than 10 photos to deliver. So in this case, what we would do is limit the number of downloads to 10, but maybe deliver a gallery of 40 or 50 images, right? So they see all the images and they're like, I can't choose just 10. That's crazy. And then what you can do is offer them the great deal if they do it right now for $200, or maybe you do $99, whatever you decide, to buy the rest of the gallery, right? So they can get all 40 or 50 images for an additional $200. In that case, you just made $200 extra, and you really didn't have to do anything other than upload and, you know, put a watermark and do some digital, you know, download limitations. So it does take a little bit more finagling in your account, but what I've noticed is a lot of people upgrade because maybe they can't decide what to choose. And a quick tip for like a portrait session, the more props you use or the different poses that you do, the more you can diversify that album of images or that gallery of images, the more likely they are going to upgrade because it looks visually different. They can't really decide. So that is a good tip for upselling. And then maybe you offer a product and you sell them an album of their images for $400. So that right there, one session can easily come to $1,000 if you have them upgrade their gallery and sell some products. This, again, is going to take a little bit more effort, but it's totally possible. So another, and I think a less popular pricing model is a sitting fee, right? So just taking the photos is $350, say. And then they don't get any digitals here, okay? A lot of people don't like this model because clients are like, wait, what? I don't get anything for that. But they get an experience, right? So I knew a photographer that would do this model, but then she was taking photos and then you would come back to her studio. It was kind of this IPS type of model, in-person sales, which we're going to talk about as well. So this is just a sitting fee, and then anything additional like digitals or albums or whatever is going to be more. You just in this model need to be very, very clear about what they get initially, because if you don't communicate that properly, people are going to be real mad. They're like, wait, what do you mean? I just paid $350 and I don't get anything. So communication is key when it comes to a sitting fee only, but it can be super lucrative. And if you have a good workflow, it can be a really, really great option. And then finally, in-person sales. Maybe you charge a sitting fee, maybe you don't, but your whole business model is a very personalized, this process could take weeks or months. You're in constant communication. It's very, if you're an introvert, maybe this isn't your bag, but if you're a good salesperson, you got to try it, because I had a friend making about $12,000 a month. I wish I could have been like her. I do not have the personality to sit and try to sell someone that much worth of stuff. But if you can do it, try it. You maybe can limit the amount of clients that you take. Some people are only having to take, 2 clients a month. Can you imagine? That would be incredible. So people, charge for products ranging from, a couple hundred to thousands of dollars, like really beautiful wallpaper. What you're doing now isn't really working for you and you feel like you want to do more, take a look at these pricing models and see maybe if there's something else you can try to make more money. Good for you, Audrey. I am so excited. 12 to 20,000 with this model. Okay. I think we need to have you on for a webinar so you can teach us your ways, because the thought of that, it's crazy, but I'm so happy. Okay. So what if you're undercharging? Like, you're listening to me talk and you're like, oh, I'm charging $200 a session. What the heck do I do? So I have been there as well. You can do 2 things. Immediately increase your prices and just say, forget it. I am going all in and I don't care if I lose my current clients. Or you can increase your prices sort of incrementally so it's not so shocking. So maybe every quarter you raise it $50 or, $100 or whatever. So it's not as crazy. I think we tend to get into our heads a little bit about our clients kind of keeping up on our prices and, what we're doing on our website. And I don't really think they care all that much. I do know that they will ask sometimes if you once charged them $200 and now you're charging $800. But again, we don't really negotiate our prices when we walk into a coffee shop. So it's funny how people have the audacity to try to talk us down from our prices, but of course they will try to do that sometimes. So you can have a really nice response and say, I've continued my education. I've bought more gear. I know what I'm doing more than I did last year. So this is why I'm charging more. So anyway, that is the end of our webinar. And it was only 43 minutes. Does anyone have any questions? I don't see any questions in the Q&A tab. So I'm going to scroll up to the top here. I did see something. Oh, no. Oh, the handout links don't work. Okay. If they don't work, we are sending you an email and you will get the handout links in the email. So don't stress about that. You'll get a copy of the webinar with the recording and all of the links. Yes, let's see here. I think everybody has a good bookkeeper and accountant, I hope. Who here shoots events? Okay, no, that's not for me. Okay, sorry guys. Can we deliver video through ShootProof? Not currently. And I don't want to say too much, but just look at my face. Maybe something is being discussed. Obviously, we don't have a set time, but we are really looking into video, and we do know that is a very popular thing at the moment. So fingers crossed, right into support, tell them that you really want video. That'll be a great help. Let's see. Irene is asking, would you recommend in-person sales? I don't do in-person sales, so I can't really speak on it. But I think if you feel like you want a more personalized experience with your clients, and you have the energy and the personality and the time, it takes a lot more time. You're spending, communicating and making sure that all the details are perfect. It's definitely worth trying. Again, I think Audrey maybe will get you on a webinar so you can explain as the expert. So I think that's it for questions. I think Audrey is answering all the questions about IPS. Awesome. So one way to upsell video, this is the last question here. Oh no, PNG files. I haven't heard recently, Darby, anything about PNG. I know we don't currently support, unfortunately, but we have talked about it. So how do we upsell video? I tend to just mention it at a session, or if I'm doing like sports photography or whatever, like the equine stuff, I'll just mention it like, hey, it's an add-on for an extra $150. I'll send you 2 reels, or I'll send you, sometimes I just send the raw footage. Like it doesn't have to be, okay, don't tell anyone I do this, and it sounds really unprofessional, but here, everything is on WhatsApp and people want video and super quickly. I will shoot video on my fancy camera. I'll download, edit, and sometimes I will just send like raw clips to my clients through WhatsApp. And I have not had one person complain. So probably not the best way. Hopefully we will support video soon. But people want a quick way to access video and then upload it or they want to put together their own edits, right? They don't like the music I pick out typically. I pick out like old school stuff. The teenagers don't like my taste in music. So, which makes my life a lot easier. I just send them the video and they put it together and they love it. So it doesn't have to be super complicated. You just have to learn video. And it doesn't take, the investment is there. You have to learn how your camera settings work and how to switch back and forth if your camera doesn't do it easily. But it's worth it because if you're kind of, either they can book ahead of time, or when you're there, you can be like, hey, just an extra add-on for $150, I can send you, some video clips. And a lot of people say yes. Maybe they feel weird because you're asking them in person and they don't want to say no, but it tends to work well. Heather's saying that she uses her iPhone for video. A lot of people are doing that. I have been shocked at the quality of video that you can get from an iPhone these days. You obviously have to make sure you know how your phone works but yeah, it can look really, really good. So Mario is saying that it's more effective to close in person. Absolutely. I think when you're in person with your clients, a lot of people, and myself included, I will say yes when I might be like, if I had time and went home, maybe I would have said no. But we're like, having fun at a session. I'm like, sure. And then I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Not to say that you should pressure your clients in person, but I do think that it's quite useful. Oh, yeah, the DJI Pocket 3 is great for videos. I've heard similar reviews. So, yeah, try it. I don't know. Sometimes people don't care if it's like nice video or behind the scenes video even of the session. I know a lot of photographers are using like those Ray-Ban Meta glasses where you can like take video of a session. You can even upsell that. I don't know. Try it all. Yeah, that's it. Any more questions? Thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, I should put our support information here. Yeah, there's some more webinars coming up. I'm not sure what's going on next month, but we have a marketing mindset coach joining us in March. His name is Joel. I have not put that webinar on the events page yet, but stay tuned. He's really great and he helps with the marketing side. So that is incredibly helpful as well. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and we will see you next time. Okay, bye.